On Canberra Live with Leon Delaney. Money Matters with Luke Smith from Envision Financial Services.
And it's 24 to 5, and it's time to welcome along to the studio once again from Envision Financial Services, Luke Smith. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There is a lot going on in the world at the moment, isn't there? Absolutely. Before we get on to today's topic, of course, there's been a lot of reporting in the news today about some of our industry super funds having been the target of cyber attacks, and in some instances, some people apparently have actually lost some money.
Yes, that's right. They've had a go, and they've had the sophistication to target pension holders and then either trigger benefit payments or try and apply to have benefit payments paid out, which obviously isn't a good thing. And it's a timely reminder that people should ensure that passwords and security is at the forefront of the way that they sort of address their dealings with any superannuation provider to try and limit the damage in something like this. So let's hope they stand by the members and make them whole.
Yes.
Because they haven't had a good run, the old industry funds, have they? The article on the news the other night about death benefit payments was very scathing, and now they've got this. So it's a big swimming pool to go fishing in if you're a hacker.
Indeed. Well, according to the media reports, 9 newspapers, news.com.au and everybody else, the affected funds include, but may not be limited to, Australian Retirement Trust, Australian Super, Host Plus, Rest and Insignia. So there may be others impacted as well. But the Australian Cyber Security Commissioner is also on the job here, Lieutenant General Michelle McGuinness. And she says, I am coordinating engagement across the Australian government, including with the financial system regulators and with industry stakeholders to provide cyber security advice. If you have been impacted or are concerned that you may have been impacted, follow the advice provided by your super fund. Thankfully, though, it does look like the damage may be limited to only a few customers, not a large number.
Yeah, which is great.
So if you are concerned, get in touch with your super fund and ask the question, am I affected?
I'd also log in and just make sure that there haven't been some unknown pension payments or lump sum withdrawals made that you didn't know about.
Exactly right. Apparently, from what I've been able to gather, the hackers have made use of stolen passwords. So how they obtained those in the first place, I guess, remains to be determined. If you do have concerns, contact your super fund, ask the question, and follow whatever advice they can give you. Now, today's advice is, interestingly, about investing outside of your super fund. Sounds like a good idea at the moment, doesn't it?
It's a great idea at the moment. And I think, like, I've had a number of conversations with people today, and it's stemmed from the completion of mortgage payments. I've had a number of people in this week and through the sort of day-to-day conversations, it's come up that, well, I've finished paying off my house, I've sold an asset, I've paid this off, and I'm a big one on maintaining or creating financial consequence, because for the time I've done my job, I find that if you change the consequence or remove a consistent, which is generally a mortgage payment for most couples or individuals, the savings behaviour and the spending behaviour start to get a little loose, and it is not hard for somebody to come in after 12 months and say, okay, well, what did we save this year? Nothing. So I'm a big one on creating consequence and maintaining consequence. I'm not saying that you can't go and have some fun and buy some shoes and, get a new set of golf clubs, for sure. But my general rule with any of that is as a percentage of what? So if you can create some consequence outside of super, which is what we're going to talk about today, you've got the ability to create some behaviours that can maximise the free cash flow that you've just generated or created through great behaviour. Like you've paid off your mortgage, wonderful, massive achievement.
Yeah.
But now what can we do progressively over time to try and build up some assets outside of super? Because if you're not close to 60, then you would be hesitant about putting large amounts of money into super, because depending on your age, you could be tying them up for 5, 10, 15 years. This is about trying to create a little something outside of super. And the biggest misconception I find here is that I need a lot to start, and you really don't. And today we're just going to run through what you can do and how you can do it, just to kick off a little something.
Yeah. Now, I guess when you finish paying off your mortgage, you might suddenly find yourself with $3,000 or $4,000 extra dollars every month that you're not paying off your mortgage.
Correct.
So the temptation is to go, you beauty, I can go and have lunch at the club every day. I can I can do all sorts of fun things. How many people actually stop and think, maybe I should do something more productive and sensible with that money? And it sounds boring though, doesn't it?
Well, and again, this is where let's take the example of $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right. Your average mortgage payment might be $3,000 to $4,000 a month, I'm guessing. Let's say it was $4,000. If you wanted to spend $1,000 a month on stuff and put 2 or 3 into something that is constructive, wonderful. And that's what I'm advocating here is don't go and take away everything and not reward yourself for the massive achievement that you've just gone through. Great.
Yep.
Awesome. But you don't have to get super loose about it and just start becoming a professional on eBay. So it's really then about saying, okay, first thing I would think about is what do I have that is surplus to my needs, and what percentage of that could I commit to something over the medium to longer term? Because depending on your age, really at any point, time is your friend. And I think if I could swap you don't know what you don't know for something else, it would be do a little something a little sooner. And this is really how you do it. So you would sit down and say, okay, what is surplus? We keep that example of $4,000 going. Say I wanted to use $2,000. You might have some money in the bank and you could go to any investment platform and open an account. And a lot of these platforms now that have a retail offering, like Vanguard is one. The micro investing apps are another, and we've spoken about those in other shows. Beta Shares, they've just created a retail platform that is brokerage free if you buy and sell stock, which is very appealing to most people. And you want to think about, what am I going to use? And we'll stick with a Vanguard example because it's simple. Now, you need to find something that's right for you. This is just an example. I'm not saying race out and use Vanguard, but they have a retail platform. And if you want simplicity, great. You can open an account and say, I will open an account with $1,000. So you would open an account with $1,000. You then want to think, what entity am I going to do it in? Do I have an existing family trust? If you do, you might want to use that. Do I have a spouse that is on a different marginal tax rate to the other spouse? So then you would think about doing it in the lower marginal tax rate, because that would give you some tax concessions. So you've identified what you can save. You've opened the account with $1,000, for example. You then want to have a think about, what level of risk am I going to take on? Now, because you're starting this with a very small amount of money, I would be hesitant about putting in too much in the way of cash and fixed interest, because if we're talking about a long-term saving strategy, we know that cash and fixed interest doesn't provide us with capital appreciation. So you'd be looking to target property, you'd be looking to target infrastructure, you'd be looking to target Australian shares and the international sector. Now, depending on the platform that you choose to use, you will have a myriad of opportunities that you could select from. So there's 2 ways you can go on that front. Sticking with our Vanguard example, do I want to pick the ASX 300 and a global managed fund or wholesale managed fund? You could do that. You could also parlay that with a super-like generic option. I'm going to pick the growth option. And it's funny that the growth option outside of super is a 70-30 mix of growth and defensive, yet balanced in superannuation is a mix of 70-30 when you're talking about superannuation product. I find that quite entertaining. So we've picked our assets, and we might even say, well, I don't want to go and pick anything. What have I got in my super fund? I've got a 75-25 mix of growth to defensive. I pick a growth option with somebody like a Vanguard, and a Beta Shares will do the same. They will have a growth option, which is a pre-mixed combination of asset allocation. You'd put that into your portfolio. You would invest your $1,000, and then what you would do is you would link a bank account that you want a regular amount to come out of. Now, depending on your provider, you'd be able to do that on a weekly basis, fortnightly basis, monthly basis, depending on what happens with your cash flow and your budget. So we've opened our account in the right entity. We've selected our asset allocation. We've invested our $1,000 to start. And then what we would say is, okay, what do we want to add? We're going to add $2,000 of our $4,000 surplus per month. Now, all of these providers would allow you to allocate the regular savings amount into the various options that you choose to select. Obviously, if you have one generic option, in goes the funds. If you have 3 or 4 or 5, you might say that I'm going to put 20% into each of them, etc., etc. So select your diversified spend in relation to the savings program, and then pick a date when you want that to start, and ensure that you have that money sitting in a bank account that is tied to your portfolio. And use technology, because it is your friend. The more you can automate this sort of thing, the less you are likely to forget, miss out, stop doing it. So automation is the key here, as is time and repetition. So we've opened it, we've invested our $1,000, we've picked our savings amount, we've allocated into the various options that we choose, and come back and look at it in 5 years. That's it. That is all you need to do. I have these questions from people all the time. Do we need to trade this and buy this and have this and do that? No. If you want to make it really difficult and really time consuming and really frustrating, you can do that. And some people like doing that, and all the power to you. The conversations I have with people are, we're very time poor. We need something that we can set up and kick off. We need it really well diversified. And this is where you'd look to buy some diversified ETFs in your structure, or some diversified wholesale managed funds, and leave it alone. If after 12 months you wanted to introduce a different sector or change the allocation and bring in a new investment, great. But start with something really well diversified initially, so that you can become comfortable with the process, the market, the goods, the bads, so that when things do happen like we've seen this week, that should actually make you quite excited, because now you can continue to buy more and more investments at a reduced price than they were last week. You want all dividends reinvested into more units inside the structure that you use, so that you're not having any cash payments come out of the vehicle. And you could leave that to cook for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. This sort of strategy is also one for the grandparents out there, for the mums and the dads that have just had their first grandchild, or first or second extension to the family, where rather than people coming and going, oh, I've got this in the bank for the grandkids. Well, if you put that in a diversified ETF and leave it alone, at 25, they're going to think you are the greatest grandparent ever, because you would have set them up, or at least paid for university, a gap year, and probably a car. And a little contribution goes a long way. So compound interest is really powerful over a 10 and 20 year period. So if you can add a little something to that portfolio, the change in capital over the time that it would be invested is mind-boggling over not adding anything once it's commenced. But when it comes to creating a portfolio, that is as hard as it needs to be. Again, if we can break some of these misconceptions that I need lots of money to start, I need to be a professional trader, I need to understand every investment that I have. No, just buy some diversified ETFs, regularly add some money to it, and look at it in 5 to 10 years. It is literally that simple.
Luke Smith from Envision Financial is with me in the studio, and today we're looking at the question, how to start investing outside of super to create some good savings behaviour. It's 10 minutes to 5. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Well, it's about 6 minutes to 5 now. Luke Smith from Envision Financial is with me in the studio, and today we're talking about how to start investing outside of super, especially to create some good savings behaviour.
Yes.
So, Luke, we've covered a fair bit of territory so far, but what do you think would be the key points for us all to remember?
Yeah, so I think we've got to decide that you're going to do it. I think starting with any amount of money is great. And don't assume that you need a lot to start. Some of these platforms will let you open an account with as little as $500, which I think is wonderful. You need to decide that you're going to do it. One, okay, great, I'm going to commit to this, and it's a medium to long-term thing, and it's a function or part of surplus income. Now, if you can open something with $1,000 and put $50 a month into something, fantastic. Everybody's got different capacities, so it's not about doing what's going to destroy the way you live. I'm not saying that at all. Just do a little something a little sooner. Great one for the grandparents. You want to set the grandkids up, kick a little something off in their name, or do it in your name and leave it to them in your will. Beautiful. So decide you're going to do it. Select the level of risk you want to maintain, keeping in mind that cash does not grow. So you want to be focusing on Aussie, international, property and infrastructure as your 4 sort of growth areas. You want to then decide, where am I going to do it? Do I use a Vanguard? Do I use a Beta Shares? Do I use a BlackRock? Do I use whatever it may be? A number of providers now have a very simple retail platform that you can use. So find one that you can understand and probably have a really good app on the phone, because a lot of them had a lot of transparency with those. Decide what you're going to start with. Decide what you're going to save into. Pick the assets and the amount that you can add each month. Link a bank account. Automate it. And then in the platform that you choose, allocate where the money is invested across the various opportunities that you wish to put into your portfolio. Obviously, if you've just got one, it goes in there. If you've got 2 or 3, you might do 30% into each, etc., etc. And then just don't look at it.
Set and forget.
Honestly, automation and consistency is your friend. Make sure that you elect to have all of your distributions from your earnings reinvested into more units, so that you can continue to compound the number of invested opportunities that are in the portfolio. And then if you do have a change in situation, you might look at it on an app every now and then, but it's not something that you would need to spend a huge amount of time on, because we want simple, we want consistent, we want repetitious, we want growth, and we want it over time. If you do find that you are building up a larger allocation into 2 or 3 investments, maybe down the track add another one and then rejig the percentage of your monthly amount that comes in. But I'm not advocating here that you put all of your savings into that, right? You still need some spending money for some Jordans and some handbags and whatever it is that you like throwing money at. Could be fish and reels. It doesn't matter. So if you make it part of your savings, you won't become disenfranchised because it's changed your discretionary spending. Make it a little bit of something, not all, because you can then have other opportunities to continue to diversify by making an additional super contribution, by making a payment on an investment property, by making a payment to a portfolio. Continue to spread around your savings and actively have them working for you towards retirement.
So, Luke, where can listeners get more information?
Yeah, so office number 62604749. We've got envisionfinancial.com.au on the internet. That's Envision with an E. We've got the Strategy Stacker podcast, Luke Talks Money, on iTunes and Spotify. We've got the YouTube channel Envision Financial Canberra, where we have a backlog of all of our shows on all of our topics. And all of these types of dollar cost averaging strategies are a specific chapter in Smart Money Strategy, your ultimate guide to financial planning in all good and bad bookstores.
Absolutely, and online.
And online.
And online. Luke Smith from Envision Financial, good afternoon.
See you
Thanks
next
very
week.
much.
Thanks.
Luke Smith from Envision back with us again next Friday at the same time, right here on 2CC. It's 2 minutes to 5. News is next.